Welcome to the Success Journey Show. Let's travel together through the lives of individuals on the road to success.
Hey, what's going on, travelers? It is Ricky Ventures and Marlon Madden, and we are back with you for another episode of the Success Journey Show. Man, we're so glad to be here with you. And as you see, we're here with a guest, none other than Jeff Deckman. Jeff is going to come to us today and just share his story. But we really just wanted to pause and say, welcome back. And I know we typically just do a one-on-one with Marlon and I, as an introduction to the show. But man, we really just wanted to pause right now to say thank you. This is our first new episode of the new year, and we're shooting live, I should say. And the year is starting off with a bang, right? And we're so honored that Jeff can come and spend some time with us and talk through just his experience and his life. So for all those that are listening, if you're driving, tune in. If you need to pull over, if you're gonna get excited, go ahead and take out your notebooks and write some notes. But I know there's gonna be a lot to learn today. So Jeff, without further ado, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, it's my pleasure, guys. As I mentioned before we went live, I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while. So the pleasure's all mine.
Yes, sir.
Man. Thank you. We are honored. So Jeff, why don't you start off with sharing with our listeners and travelers, we call them, around the world, just a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm an unlikely story, even to myself. I just turned 66 back in October.
Congratulations.
And I've been, it causes you to look back a little bit, and man, what a journey. If anybody ever would have told me that I would be doing what I'm doing now when I first got out of high school, I couldn't even have imagined it. I came from a really low middle class income, and really great parents, which was a blessing. But we traveled around quite a bit, and I moved a lot. My academics weren't good, so when I had a chance to get out of high school, I got out of high school, and I got out of education completely. My father was in the cable television industry since 1951, believe it or not. So I grew up around linemen, tower workers, field engineers, and they were like cowboys to me. Yeah. So when I got out of high school, I had a full track scholarship that I didn't even tell my parents I had, because I didn't want them to make me go to 4 more years of prison. Right. So at the age of 17, I became a lineman. About a year after that, I became a tower worker and a field engineer, and I was living that dream. And my self-esteem was really pretty low at that point, because I connected intelligence with grades, and my grades weren't good. So I didn't think I was stupid. I knew I was. So because of that, what I did was I said, you know what, man, you better work twice as hard to get anywhere in life. So that's what I did. I just buckled down, and I worked really hard. And I came to find out, about a decade later, that I do happen to be pretty smart. It's just in certain areas. And so I moved up in the cable television industry, and we were building some really sophisticated systems. And when I was 26 years old, I had an opportunity to start a business so I did a cable television contracting, design, engineering firm. And I picked up a couple of partners, and we built that company to 4 offices, one in Dallas, one in Virginia, one in Rhode Island, one in New Jersey. And things were going good. We had 108 employees, and we were doing $5 million a year in 1987 money, and it crashed.
Wow.
It crashed. And I was married. I had a 2-year-old. I had another one on the way, and I just bought a new house in April, and the thing went down in June. And what happened was we didn't understand the complexity of the business that we were building. We were so excited with the growth that we get out over our skis. We ended up with a company that was more complicated than our ability to manage it. None of us were MBAs, right? We were all guys that we knew our trade, and we knew how to get the work done, but we didn't understand finance, we didn't understand cash flow, we didn't understand a lot of stuff. So we got out over our skis and got choked out. So that crashed. I was 30, and I had never had a failure like that. And I was thinking, what am I going to do here? I had two choices. I could hire on, people knew me in the industry, I had a good reputation, or I could start a new business. And the thought of starting a new business was both ridiculous to me because I just crashed one, but it would not leave me alone. It just kept coming back. And it was, for some reason, I couldn't understand why. I just kept getting, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. So my wife at the time, thankfully, she was very supportive. And what happened was I learned a great lesson through that because I was really stuck. I had to make a decision pretty quickly. And what it boiled down to is someone once told me, don't make decisions based upon fear, make them based upon love, right? So, well, what would I love to do? And I said, well, I'd love to stay in business. And here's the other thing. If I took a job, I'd probably never start another business because I had the wife and the two kids. If I started another business and that went under, I could always get the job.
Yeah.
So the one choice allowed me to have both choices. So I started the other company. I had $17,000. I had a ton of debt. Took me 7 years to pay it off. I paid it all off. And that business struggled for about 9 years. I almost went under 4 or 5 times. I had the IRS come in. I had to deal with them. And it was not fun at all. And but I hung in there, and that business actually was in the telecommunications contracting business. So I shifted from the cable television industry into that other industry. It was just emerging. The money was better. The competition was less. So I saw the birth of two industries, cable television and telecommunications. So I've always been on the edge of innovation. And I built that company up to being one of the premier integrators in New England. And I sold it a week before its 21st birthday to my management team. And I mean, I've been ridden hard and put away wet many, many times. Just, I was so broke, my buddies didn't have any money,
Oh, man.
it was just, but I burned my ships on the shore, so I didn't have an option, and I knew there were times on a Sunday night that I would almost throw up, knowing the stress I was going to enter into Monday morning. And, but, I always told myself, okay, so you can collapse and go into fetal position. You can always do that. But then what? You're going to lay there for, I don't know, a day, 2 days, a month or whatever, but eventually you're going to get up, and all you're going to do will have dug yourself a bigger hole. So find a way, get up, put one foot in front of the other. And, what I learned through that is nobody can ever make me give up on anything. I can choose to stop doing something, but nobody can ever make me give up. And it was really empowering because when I didn't have anything else, I didn't see where my next contract was coming from. I was going without pay. I couldn't see how I was going to get out of the hole I was in. All I knew was that nobody could make me give up. And that allowed me to be empowered. And as long as I was empowered, I wasn't a victim.
Yeah.
I wasn't a victim because I knew victim mentality is death.
Yes. Yes.
No matter what, man. And so, the reason I left my company was I was bored. It was doing well. This was back in 2005. We were probably doing close to 7 million a year, and it was profitable. I kept it small. I didn't have 4 offices, 1 office. Learned my lesson with that.
Yeah.
And kept it manageable and kept it profitable. And I just realized that I was really an entrepreneur at heart. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to help other people build their businesses easier with less stress, making fewer mistakes than I built mine. So I decided to become a business consultant. And I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know how to sell thinking. Like how the heck do you sell thinking?
Yeah, yeah.
And how do you find clients? I didn't know any of that. But thankfully I got out, and actually I made my living as a political strategist for 2 years because I had helped run a lot of campaigns on the side while I was doing, building my company. I got into the political space with that. So that bought me some time. And then I was invited to be a partner in a think tank. And in 2007, I became partners in that think tank. And what we did was we were looking at where the world was changing as a result of the new millennium, which 2005, that had just happened. The rapid deployment of technology.
Yep.
The new generation, the new mindset and consciousness of the modern worker.
Yeah.
And the rate of speed at which business was going was challenging every aspect of traditional leadership and organizational design models that have been around since the industrial age. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to understand where that world was going and what new models we needed to create, leadership and organizational models. So, designing networks for 20 years, the networks are the most flexible, intelligent forms of organizations we can create. The other thing is they just happen to be tribes. And tribes are the tribe is the most successful design for human collaboration humans have ever created. And it's never left us. Everywhere you look, we're tribing.
Yeah.
Tribal communities. Yeah.
Tribal communities. Yeah. You look at sports fans,
Yeah, exactly.
Tribes.
Yeah.
You look at your company, you have any hobby, you do anything with anybody. And scientists have shown that, researchers have shown that you bring people who've never met one another together to work on a common cause. It could be sandbags because there's a local disaster or like whatever. Within 7 minutes, tribal dynamics start to kick in. There's some leadership that shows up. There's collaboration that shows up. People start communicating. They're not communicating based on org charts or that kind of stuff. So the basis of my work is that organizations are organisms.
Yes.
They're biological organisms. And we treat them like they're machines. If you look at the org chart, that's a Henry Ford assembly line.
Yeah.
And that's linearity, that's silos, that's control. And where else do humans, when they get together, form departments that control how they interact with and what? It's a horrible design for human interaction. That's why employee engagement numbers are at only 30%. Only 3 out of 10 people are engaged at work. And, Gallup's done studies on that for years. And it's always 30, 34%, drops down a little bit. But imagine a baseball manager that could only get 3 players out on the field.
That's crazy.
Right? But it's been that way for so long that we accept it. So if somebody goes to 40%, we throw roses.
So that they're winning. Yeah, they're winning. Yeah.
Like, whoa, what magic wand do you have? Wow. So then there are other studies that show that while 70% are not engaged, 70% of the workers want to be engaged. So I looked at that because I have a designer's mind and an engineer's mind. I learned that in cable television. So I looked at that and I said, wait a minute. This is telling me that it's not a people problem.
It's a leadership problem.
70% aren't, but they want to be. 100% of management wants people engaged. So it's not a people problem. What is it? And through my research and the stuff I've done, I realized it's the problem is the model. We're using an org chart, an industrial age model that's designed to build a machine. And what we have is an organism. So when you look at the biology of this thing, right? I mean, listen, look at our language. We say we build organization, or we build our companies, we build organizations. But an organism, you grow. You grow. So the thinking has to shift from not how do I build my organization and how do I build my teams. It's okay, but that's a dinosaur mentality. That's going to take you out in the next 5 or 10 years if you don't figure out how to shift over to this new age of leadership. And what you want to do is say, how do I grow my teams? How do I grow my organization? Because when something is growing, it's getting stronger and it's connected. Right?
Wow.
And you're feeding it. You're feeding it.
You're feeding it. And you're like a gardener, right? You're a good steward. Wow. You're making sure it's getting sun, it's getting nutrients, it's taken care of. And you prune, right? Yep. Prune to get the bad stuff out, and you prune to get the good stuff going. Correct. So it's this whole tribal mentality that the organization is a tribe of tribes. The organization is an organism. It's a biological entity. And just like our body has a whole bunch of cells and a whole bunch of organs, you know, the heart, the brain, the kidneys, they all do their own stuff. An organization, that's basically the departments. But the heart does not communicate with the rest of the body. The kidneys are always sending information up to the brain to communicate where things are going. It's a system.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So you got to
imagine if the brain, if the kidney was, the hierarchy was, oh my goodness, I can't talk to the brain because the brain is that person that's up there. So my message don't go all the way up. So then that message doesn't tell the heart that it needs to do X, or the lungs that it needs to do X in order to keep that organism successful or living. Yeah.
And it's not saying, hey, we've got a problem down here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Man, Jeff, the way you're breaking this down is, you see me looking down, I'm sitting here writing notes because you're just really speaking to the heart of the struggle that we've seen in so many businesses that are growing and are trying to adopt models to, you know, as what they see in other organizations, right?
Yeah.
Because so many people adopt that, you know, org chart model, and all right, that's how we're going to make it work. And you got to have a dotted line to this person and that person. You have 2 people you report to. You're going to report to 3 people. Or you're across this, and you know, it's just over engineered. And like you said, we're not trying to build a company. The company's trying to grow. We're trying to nurture. You know, organisms are organizations. Like you said, you know, organisms, right? That you feed, that you grow, that you nurture, where everyone's in sync and everyone's working together, man. Just having that, yeah, I would love to be a fly on the wall in that leadership team mastermind that you guys have, because that concept is novel. A lot of people are not talking about that.
Yeah, and you know what happens, and this was certainly me many years ago, was I just looked and I said, look, man, I don't know what it is that I'm doing. So I'm looking around saying, what did they do? And how can I reverse engineer it so it can work for me? And when it didn't work for me, it wasn't the model. I was the dummy, right? And I don't know how I'm doing. And no, the reason it didn't work is because the model doesn't work unless you have a whole bunch of financial capital. And the sad part about it, the way we've built our organization is we pray to the altar of financial capital. So we sacrifice everything for financial capital, including human beings. And that's stupid, because money doesn't make money. Human beings, human capital, most valuable resource in that organization. You know, you could take $100, slap it on a table, put it in a closet, and come back 1,000 years from now, that $1,000 bill is going to be laying there. You put $1,000 on there, and you put a couple of people in that room, and you come back, and that money is going to be multiplying. So people make money. So when you pay attention to your people and you get the human capital right, and by right, we're cooperating, you know, we'll have our dust-ups here and there, we'll have our arguments, but we're a band of brothers and sisters, and we're in here, we're a tribe, and we're making it work. And you get the communication and the collaboration going and mutual respect within the team. They are going to increase performance. So that dynamic increases engagement. Increased engagement equals increased performance. Increased performance equals increased profits.
Yes, sir.
End of story. It's math.
Yes, it is. What that buy-in, because if you have a buy-in from a person that comes to work and you say, hey, we got to work extra today to get out X because of whatever situation it is, because that person have a buy-in and they believe in the company and they love the tribe, they want that tribe to succeed. And they're willing to put out that effort without moaning and groaning and gripes and complaints.
Yep.
And it's funny that you mentioned this. When I'm a Marine, right? So when I first thank you for your support. So when I first joined the Marine Corps, the way you learn to lead was by, hey, I'm the sergeant, you're the lance corporal, you do as I say, right? And then I went out on recruiting duty, and on recruiting duty, just like what you're talking about before, I had to learn how to what they call match and mirror, just like you're talking about, which is, if I come into contact with you, I have to find some kind of commonality to build that tribe, right? That's what we're doing to make sure that you feel comfortable with sitting and talking to me. So when I started to learn how powerful words were in buy-in from being recruiter, because I couldn't just say, hey, get in my office and sign this paper and you're a Marine. I had to convince, I had to show, I had to do all the different things, or they'll have the buy-in to say, you need to be a part of this organization. When I went back to the regular Marine Corps, I didn't throw away, because you still have the military is a little different. You still have the hierarchy, but I wasn't the one that was walking around, and because my rank was up here, I didn't interact with the guy, the new guy. I wanted to always interact with everybody on every level, because when they worked for me, I wanted them to understand firmness and firm and fear, and I wanted them to buy into whatever we wanted to do as a team. So what you're saying is 100% correct. And if you look at the military is also trying to change your leadership style, not drastically, but what they're doing is, just because I'm a general, that don't mean I don't talk to a kid that just came in 2 days ago. Because they're noticing. Go ahead.
And building that rapport builds trust.
Yes,
now,
sir.
What happens is that before that power dynamic, people follow your directions.
Correct.
Right? Do this, they do that, right? And they'll do that because they have to. However, when you build that bond, now they will follow your direction. That's what I want. I don't want people following my directions. If I have to manage you, I have to fire you. I want you to understand what it is that we're doing here. This is a direction we're going in. I want you following that direction, because if I stray or if I miss something, you're following the direction and you're going, oh, wait a minute, we should be looking to, make this adjustment or that adjustment. We want to keep the conversation going. Native Americans were incredibly successful, right? And they also lived right at the edge of death. Nature could take them out anytime it wanted to. One bad winter, bad news. So they had a tremendous amount of respect. And we don't fear our survival anymore in our tribal organizations. What? If I get cold, I turn the heat up. So we've lost a lot of respect for that. So as a result, we have diluted the importance of competency in organization. Right. So imagine the chief has a son, and the son is a knucklehead. You're not going to make that son the chief buffalo hunter.
No.
Through nepotism, because everybody's going to suffer and die. In the structures that we have now, nepotism, politics runs rampant, and then when you build a culture that's how it's built, who gets promoted? The people that get promoted are the ones that buy into that system and feed that next level. Then when they get there it's their turn. The victor goes to spoils. And that's why culture is so toxic in so many places. And, since we're organisms, you put an organism in a petri dish that has toxin in that culture, it's going to get sick. you put it in a healthy culture, it's going to stay healthy.
Correct.
Organisms want to be healthy. People want to be healthy. And as leaders, and this is, I get kind of a little edgy on this. As leaders, we have a responsibility as a human being. If we're in a leadership position, that's a sacred role. I have a lot of control over a lot of people's lives, a lot of control. So I have a sacred obligation to do that right and to create an environment where people come in and are respected, and they have an opportunity to work in a non-toxic environment, that when they go home, they don't, they pet the dog, they don't kick it. They don't have to have 2 or 3 drinks just to talk to their spouse.
There you go.
Right? They're not telling their kids to get away because they just left everything on the field, on their desk. I mean, if you're running an organization like that, you should kind of be dragged out and beat around a little bit and then fired, I mean, that's just, but we see it everywhere. And, that's why my passion is I've done a ton of spiritual work, a lot of consciousness work. And I blend that with the real world. This isn't about woo-woo to me. This isn't about let's hug everybody and give everybody a safe space. This is about, you're a Marine. You understand that far better than I ever will. The importance of discipline to get you through challenging times.
Correct.
So you have to build a team that understands, hey, we're going to be stressed. There's other tribes out there and they all want to take us out. So we have to come together as a company. We're the only ones that we have. And as a leader, you have to be a conscious leader. You have to lead that consciousness, and you can't fake that. People pick up on that. You can't fake that stuff.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. I don't know, Rick, if you wanted to go say something. I wanted to go back a little bit.
Yeah, same here. I want to go back.
I wanted to go back a little bit. When you started your company and you were formulating the company, how did you gather the information to know, okay, let me do an LLC versus an S Corp versus a C Corp, start a bank account? Where did you gather your information? Because you said it was like, what, 1980?
I started my first one in 81. I started my second one in 87. I started my third one in 2005.
So in 81, there's no jumping on the computer, typing in, how do you start an LLC?
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing like that. In 81, there's no Google. There's no, how did you gather that information? What did you do? What made you say, okay, I can start a company? Or did you just say, hey, I have a company?
No, I had a telephone. so I called not a law firm, but a lawyer. I wanted to, somebody had their shingle out. I didn't call an accounting firm. I called a little bookkeeper because I wanted them to see me. I wanted them to care about me. And I'd be intimidated by them because I thought they were all magicians and, much smarter than me because they had diplomas. So I just said, what do you think? What should I do? And what are the pros and the cons? And, they gave me the options, and depending on what fit for me, I've always had a subchapter S. All 3 of them have been subchapter S's, and LLC is good. There's a lot of different things you can do, but just call your accountant, call your lawyer, and say, hey, help me figure this thing out, and take their information, listen to their advice, but make up your own mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
make up your own mind, because when it goes south, if it goes south,
it's on you.
It's on me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've had this where, I surrendered far too much of my intellectual thinking when that company was going down. Man, I got so much bad information from the lawyers that I had. We were in North Jersey, and, we hired a bunch of bankruptcy attorneys. I figured out why they're not called stay in business attorneys. Those guys got us on the fast track to going down.
Yes, sir. They sped it up.
I love that.
And they were horrible. And they charged us out the wazoo, money we didn't have. And I remember I got really angry at the guy. at one point because he told me that, hey, you should liquidate, right? Don't go chapter 11 or 13, whichever one it is. Chapter 7 we went. And that fit anyway, because I wanted to get away from those partners and start a new business. And I said, well, what about the IRS? We owed the IRS 25 grand. And the last check that we got into the building was for $25,000. So we could have either paid the IRS or we had a $25,000 payroll. And we said, you know what? It's not our people's fault that this is going down. We have to pay them.
Yeah.
So we took the responsibility of paying the IRS, which is, like feeding a wolf. They're brutal. But the lawyers told us, don't worry, because the IRS is not a secured creditor. They go at the bottom of the list. They are a secured creditor. I'm here to tell you. They are.
Take theirs first.
They're one creditor that could take all you have.
Everything, exactly. And they almost did. I've had more wrestling matches with those. I'll call them humans just to be kind. Nightmares. And I was yelling at my attorney one time. I'm a pretty calm guy, but I had lost it at this point. And I said, you know what, man? I would love to have your job. I'd love to have your job. And he said, well, it's not as much fun as you think. And I said, no, I'm not saying it's fun, but here's the deal. You get paid by the hour. So the slower you are, the more money you make. The dumber and the slower you are, the more money you make. I got to be the smartest guy on the block and I got to be hustling like crazy. It must be, now I know why you have a big Mercedes, because you're slow and stupid. I had to get some kind of satisfaction.
That's a good barometer. Yeah, that's a good barometer to test if you're going to get a lawyer now. Go see what kind of car they drive. It's like,
That's it. I said, man, slow and stupid, you get rich.
So this is what's surprising to me, and I love this portion of what you pointed out, that victim mentality. So now, like you said, hey, 25,000 come in, the IRS, which is not a nice guy to have, person or entity to have on your back. And you say these people are not the ones that should be held liable.
Right.
I'm going to pay them and we're going to hold that debt. Also, we were just making $5 million. And now I have a wife. I just bought a house in April and now it's May. And what am I going to do now?
Yeah, no income. And we weren't overpaying ourselves. I mean, that business took about a year to crash. So we had gone a long time without even paying ourselves a dime, just putting all the money back in the company, trying to see if we could pull the throttle up. We knew we were heading into a mountain, but we just, every day you get up and you pull back on the throttle, because you don't have to miss the mountain by any more than a half an inch to miss the mountain.
Correct.
So every day you're going in and you're looking at, what can I do? Incrementalization. I learned a lot about incrementalization. And I also learned something about stress management, because the image that came to me one day, these things pop into my head and they're really great teaching tools, is, I kept like, oh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen when I only have a certain amount of hours in a day? I can either spend my time digging myself out, spend my time thinking about other things. Every second I take that I'm not digging myself out, I'm costing myself something. And the analogy I had was, imagine if a train is coming and my foot is caught in the tracks. And I can hear the train. I can feel the vibration in the tracks. I know it's coming. I don't have to look at it. I have to have the discipline to spend 100% of my time focused on trying to get my foot out. Right? Because if I look up for 5 seconds, who knows, that 5 seconds may have been enough to get me out. So I have to have the discipline to just like go forward, because if it hits me, it's going to hit me as hard either way if I'm staring at it and screaming at the end. And at the very last minute, I can always like at least drop over. It'll just take my leg off and I'll put a tourniquet on it, but I'll live. And if I live, with entrepreneurs, it's about staying in the game, because as long as I'm at the table, if I have one chip, I can win two. I can win four. It's when I push myself away from the table, when I have chosen to give up, and I'm free to do that, but nobody can push me away from that table. And I'm a good guy with a bad attitude. And, you're not going to tell me that I can't make it somewhere. And I'm crazy enough to burn my ship on the shore. But I'm also not irresponsible. I've had 3 kids to raise. I got a divorce. I never missed an alimony payment. I was never late. Never missed a child payment. Never late. I missed a lot for me, but I never missed any of my obligations. And as a result, I've had a life where, a lot of real ups and downs and brutal, challenging, et cetera. But I wouldn't change it for a second, because it was a life on my terms. It was a life on my terms. I've never had a job where I was like, oh, I can't wait to retire, because I'm working for me. And, my dad told me, he was my mentor and my hero. When I first told him I was starting my business when I was 26, he looked at me and goes, well, Jeff, if you're going to work for an ass, it may as well be yourself. I was like, well, thanks, Dad. But I've been working for an ass. Oh God, 40 years.
Man,
40 years. I've been paying my own salary and making enough to pay a lot of other people's too.
Yet, that picture. Man. Rick, I don't want to hog it, man, but that picture that you painted with the person stuck on that train track, that's me. But where's hard when you see somebody that's stuck on that train track is to tell them to have the discipline to say, stop looking at the train that's coming and focus on getting your foot out. Now, if you don't get your foot out, what's your plan B? Are you just going to look at the train and scream at it and it's going to hit you, kill you? Or are you going to choose to lay at the side, let it take 1 foot, put a tourniquet on it? You might have to get a wooden foot, a artificial whatever, but you're still alive and you're still in the game. That is very hard to teach people. Very, very, especially in today's society, because everybody wants to look at the train and they're even looking up at the people at the platform. You see, this train is going to hit me. They want everybody to feel sorry for them about the train, and they don't want to help themselves. And they're wondering why you're not coming down here to take out my foot, and all the different excuses that they use instead of focusing on taking out their foot or saying, "Hey, I'm going to lose a foot. I'm okay with that, and I'll be in the fight." Because like you said, if I'm at the table and I have 1 chip, I can have 2. Man, I don't want to hog it, so I'll turn it over.
I had stage 4 cancer in 2016, and what a ride that was.
Man,
what a ride that was. I was originally diagnosed with stage 3, which once they did the biopsy, I was just like, oh man, I hope I'm stage 3. I never thought I'd wish I was stage 3 in cancer. So the guy calls me and he tells me you're stage 3, and I was like, oh man, I actually kept an audio diary. I've got an audio diary that I made during that whole experience. It's on Spotify or Spreaker. Sorry. Spreaker, and okay. About a week later, I went in to get some information. I had to send up to doctors and stuff, and I looked, and stage 3 was scratched out and stage 4 was put in. And I called him and I was like, what happened here? And he said, oh, I misspoke. I made a mistake. And I said, well, you know what, man, in the business that you're in, that's a big thing to make a mistake on. And immediately the thought that came to me, and I can't take credit for it, but I can be thankful for it. The thought that came to me was, my story just got cooler, because I'm coming back from 4. I'm coming back from stage 4. I win. And now my story just got cooler. I'm going to learn more. I'm going to be able to teach more. I'm going to be able to relate to people more. And so let's go. Let's do this. And it was scary, but I learned more in that year than I would have in 2 lifetimes about myself, about compassion for people, about the importance of time. Since I made that, I got to walk my daughter down the aisle. I have 2 grandkids now. I'm married to a beautiful woman. That all that happened post-cancer. So lost my hearing and a couple of other things that I had to deal with. So, you take the loss and you turn it into a gain, and it's whole mindset. How does this make me better? How does this make me wiser? How does this make me a better contributor to the society and to the world and other seekers like me who are trying to find their way and are looking for elders? We need our elders. And so being an elder isn't necessarily an age. It's
exactly.
It's a consciousness.
Thank you for listening to the Success Journey Show. Please follow us on our social media on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at The Success Journey Show. Also, check out our website at thesuccessjourneyshow.com. Thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of the show.
Man, I love it. So thinking about coming forward back to present day in the organization that you have now, and the consulting work that you do, tell us what kind of companies or leaders, organizations do you target? I know what you share can be relevant for a vast array of people in leadership that are striving to be better leaders. But where have you seen that you really made huge strides in that, people are able to really pick up your methodologies and your processes and the M3 process, right? And really apply it to their everyday organizations, whether they are CEOs or managers or whatever it may be, and run with it. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, one thing that I don't seek is I don't do corporate work, like big corporations. My thinking and my body of work is too innovative, and it requires too much deconstruction of the corporate entity. So my commitment to do this for however long I'm doing it, and I'll do it until I can't do anything, is to help organizations and the people in them to transform to a different level of consciousness and leadership in organizations, create these healthy organizations. So I find that the people are most receptive to it, that can actually implement it, are small to medium people that are running small to medium-sized businesses. And people that are just starting to. I do individual coaching with people that are saying, you know what, I think I have, it's just me. I think I might want to hire one other person. So I can go in and I like helping those people. It's kind of like, it's just some very basic blocking and tackling. And I have a super cheap rate that I work with those people because I want to help them. Because you help an entrepreneur, those people know how to breathe without oxygen. You give them an ounce, they're turning it into 1.5 pounds, right?
Yeah.
So it's a great place for me to invest my time. And also people that are looking to build their organization, they could maybe be 5 people and we're trying to go to 10 or 15, and that requires I do a lot of organizational design stuff too. And, companies that are a lot more profitable, 100 employees, 200 employees, but the ownership or the management team knows that they have to figure out quickly how to go from that old way to whatever this new way is, and they're not quite sure what it is. So the last 15 years, I've done an incredible amount of work in not only figuring out what the new mindset, the new model, and the new methods are that will transform people from industrial age thinking and models into knowledge and information age models and thinking, right? Because the world moves very quickly. Information is everywhere, and we've got the 4 or 5 most independent-minded generations in the history of humanity in the workforce, and none of them want to be told what to do.
Yeah.
And leadership is always about, I'll work with you a little bit, but at the end of the day, I'm going to get a stick and I'm going to force you to do it, and it's not working. So they're doubling down and they're getting less results, getting quiet quitting. You're getting, mass resignations.
Yeah.
People want to work. people want to have a sense of pride. So it's not a people problem, it's a model problem.
Correct.
So, there's just not enough people that know the model. So I do. I just did my first 12-week certification training program on the M3 process, where we go through 12 weeks of mindset stuff, 3 weeks of the new organizational model, and then 8 weeks of the leadership system that, it's literally taken me 15 years to find those things. And I didn't realize they pieced together until I saw they did. That's my journey. I mean, I'm an innovator, and I'm a bit of a future whatever. And I find things, and then I make them work, and I figure out how they work. And then if I can learn them, I can teach them. Because I don't have a degree in anything. So, but I've learned how to be an engineer. I've learned how to design. I've learned all this stuff. So if I can learn it, I can teach it. So that's what I do. I take people, go, man, I want to learn this. I know there's a new way. I want to be this new generation of leader that is not narcissistic, that's not cannibalistic. My generation has done a lot of good things, and it's done some of the most horrible things ever, because we are one generation away from this greatest generation, and we've just about destroyed everything. That's not cool.
Capitalism kind of feeds. So I love capitalism.
Me too. Right?
But capitalism also feeds that beast that you're talking about.
No, it doesn't.
Let's talk about that.
Capitalism creates opportunities.
Yes.
And in that, I am responsible. It gives me a lot of choices. In that, I'm responsible for the choices I make. So there's all these opportunities. Do I want to go and do a money grab and do everything I can to get as much as I can so I can pack it into me and I can have my house and my cars and my whatevers? Or do I want to have the mindset of a tribal elder whose commitment is to the legacy of the tribe and the existence of the tribe beyond their existence, and making sure that the tribe is healthy and that it prospers, and that there's always the next generation of leadership that comes in? Capitalism allows me an opportunity to do either one of those, and I am 100% responsible for the direction I take. Capitalism's not bad just any more than a gun is bad. It's just who's using it.
Totally agree with you. I totally agree with you that capitalism in its true form is not bad. But however, when you place it
for that other,
correct, when you place it in that person, that narcissistic person, that person that's a cannibal, that's have that cannibalistic ways, it causes a lot of harm. A lot of harm, because now you have a person that is willing to step on somebody, willing to use somebody, willing to, like you said, we sacrifice humans a lot of times over anything else. And I see that not capitalism. I stand corrected. Capitalism in its true form is great, but capitalism in the wrong hand is what causes a lot of the different problems that we have today, especially in the corporate America.
Absolutely. And I've seen it in small too. So that's why my whole thing, if I were to summarize it, I would call it conscious leadership. And it's about leading as with your inner elder, not your external ego. Right? Like all of us have this inner elder in us, this wise person. You don't hear from it a lot because it doesn't argue with the idiot.
Right.
Wise people don't argue with idiots,
I'm telling you,
but
we try not to.
Yeah, it's arguing with an idiot like wrestling with a pig in the mud. Sooner or later, you realize
you're going to get dirty.
Mud,
Yep. You're absolutely correct.
So what I really look to do is I look for leaders who are heart-centered and who are smart and want to build something that's sustainable and benefits the people that work there, the community, and is conscious. And when you create a culture like that, the narcissists come in. And tribal cultures are really powerful. It's the source of peer pressure, right? Peer pressure is one of the most powerful forces in the human condition. It can make you do stupid things. It can make you do really good things. Nazi Germany, a lot of peer pressure.
Yes.
So what happens is when you create a culture of consciousness, the narcissists come in and they see that it doesn't work. They don't fit in. They don't fit into that energetic harmonic. So they either adapt or they leave. So what we have to do, and we're at just the beginning phase of this thing, but there's a lot of people out there doing it. What we have to do is we have to develop more of this so that there are less companies built like this. And these new models where it's about human capital first, you get the human capital right, financial capital is going to come. That's where capitalism becomes a very powerful motivator to build conscious companies because you make more money.
Yeah.
Right. And we all have egos and they're fine, and we all have desires and we want the next best thing, and that's great too, as long as it's just not running rampant. So the whole thing that I'm doing is, and people are talking about, yes, we need that, but how do we get there? And I the only way I can survive is I have to learn how to operationalize thinking. Platitudes don't do me any good at all. In fact, they're dangerous because they make me think I'm learning something, but I can't apply it. That's wasted time. I may as well be just staring at that train because I didn't do anything productive.
Yeah.
So everything that I do, I get these ideas and I start working with them, and I make them work in my own practice. And if they don't work in my own practice, I don't tell anybody about them. If they do, I do. So this stuff, the more you learn about it, the more you realize how much you already know about it because it's so intuitive.
Yeah. So let me, all right, real life experience with something like this. And I don't know if you want to go dive into it or not. Elon Musk takes over Twitter, right? He says, I want to, the main reason why I bought Twitter was because I want free speech to be free speech.
Mm-hmm.
But then he comes in and it looks like he just goes straight to toxic leadership, right? Because he fires this person. He does all this crazy stuff. With something like that, how would you approach, and well, I know you don't do big corporations, but how would you talk to a person like that and say, where would you lead them, or how would you guide them into to making that workplace, the climate of that workplace productive?
So
you're smiling.
A couple.
Put you on the spot. Yeah.
You ever read The Prince?
No, I have not read it.
You ever hear of Machiavelli?
Yes.
Yes.
Machiavelli wrote The Prince.
Okay.
125 pages, maybe, right? Brilliant piece of work, lasted for centuries. Who Machiavelli was basically a coach to the CEOs. He was a coach to princes, and princes were like the CEOs. They'd go in, they'd take over a place, and they get everyone working for them, right? Correct. So Machiavelli was a high level coach, and he coached CEOs. And I read his book a couple times, and I was surprised because Machiavelli has always been described as this vicious, like just cut their heads off, and that's not at all what he was saying. He was about building healthy organizations, but he was also a realist. I'm peaceful and I'm kind, but I'm not weak. And I've had my share. It's been many, many years, thankfully, but I've had my share of street fights where I moved into a lot of. I was always a nice guy, all that kind of stuff. Move into a new school, the alpha comes up, and there's going to be a fight. And well, here we go. We have to do this, right? But then we get back and let's put everything back in order and hang out. So what Machiavelli said is, look, when you come into a place, there's going to be people that want you out. They're not happy you're there. right? And you can be the nicest guy in the world. You want to come in, and there's some bad apples in that place because they've been doing some really bad things. So his advice was, look, here's what you do. You go in right away. You do all the killing that needs to be killing right off the bat. Boom, do it quick. And what you're sending the message is, I am capable of killing. Then from that point on, be kind and do kindness over a long period of time. So they've shocked their system. Then they see there's this reasonableness and there's this method to a madness where you're really looking to try to get it going in a different direction, and do that over time, because you don't want people afraid of you. You want them knowing that, don't mess with you, because you want to be clear with what your standards are.
Yeah.
So do that. So what Musk did, I mean, I don't know the guy, but I'm looking at it and I'm saying, I've seen this model before. He just went in and went, okay, all these people I think were doing the horrible things that he thinks they were doing, out. We're going to clear this place out, because in his view, he's saying that this whole place is a toxic swamp. His thinking, I'm not forming any opinions on that, right?
Yeah.
Not my place for that. I'm just describing a dynamic.
Correct.
Right. So he's going, this is toxic. I need to know how toxic it is and how deep it is, because there's cancer in here and I got to dig it out. So that's what he's doing. He's shocking people. And, it's a big gamble that he's taken. He doesn't know if he can turn it around. And what does free speech look like in the modern world? Back in the day, free speech was you send out some pamphlets.
Yeah, right.
You send out some pamphlets. Today, you get on
street somewhere.
Free speech is all over the world, and things go viral so quickly. So, he's that's what he's doing. He's going in and he's saying, I think this is a very toxic thing for humanity. It's a very powerful thing that's bringing a negative thing into humanity. And now you look at it, the FBI was in there.
Yeah.
CIA is in there. And I'll tell you, on a macro level, there is a huge battle going on in the history of humanity right now. And the cool thing about history is you don't realize you're living in it until you get past and you look back and you go, whoa, right? So we are living at a period of time where we're actually entering a new age of human civilization. We've had 3 up till now. Nomadic, 50,000 years. Agricultural. And anytime you get a new age, unbelievable things happen. Agricultural, all of a sudden, we didn't have to be nomads. We could create communities and towns and cities, and right. Agricultural then led us to the industrial age.
Yes.
Agricultural lasted about, I think, 10, 20,000 years. The industrial age started about 300 years ago. The industrial age has taken us to the point that we're now at the technology age. And so we are entering in the 4th age of human civilization, and a lot of things are changing. And a lot of things have to change. And a lot of things are getting broken. And one of the most fun, and the internet had as much impact on this as when, what was his name? The guy who invented the printing press.
Oh my gosh.
Gutenberg? Something. When he invented the printing press, literacy went off the scale. And the powers to be, the royal, the royal,
Gutenberg,
and the church,
Gutenberg.
They were the power brokers. They were the institutions that held all the individuals down.
Yeah.
Well, printing press, literacy, I can self-educate. Wait, I'm starting to figure out some of these lies that these people have been telling me and how they're trying to hold me down, right? So we had that really helped us get through the Renaissance age and that kind of stuff. Well, now the internet happens. So space and time no longer is a barrier to humans communicating.
Yes.
Exactly.
So there is an incredible surge of literacy. And when there's a surge of literacy and people can self-learn, self-teach. They don't need their institutions anymore. And the institutions don't like that. So they double down. They double down. So we're at a period one of the big things that's happening as a result of us going out of the industrial age and into the information and network age is there's a huge battle going on between the institutions and the individuals. Yeah. And they both want the same thing. And that is the fruits and the labor and the time and the efforts and the money of the individual. But the individual is getting more powerful. The individual is getting smarter. It's not listening to mainstream media. It's starting to go, wait a minute, what is going on here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So it's a phenomenally cool time to be alive. I mean, I'm having a blast. And that's why I'm doing the stuff I'm doing, because I want to be in this game. Yeah. I want to be coming up with I'm on the individuals team. You know, I'm an underdog, been one my whole life. I like it. And I've learned how to be effective in that. And I'm just a very small drop in a very big bucket, but I'm dropping in the right bucket. And that's the bucket that's going to win at some point. So, you know, you see big government trying to get bigger. You see big pharma. Clamp down, like that whole pandemic. Forget the politics of it. It matters, but we don't need to talk about that. You just look at what happened. Governmental entities in previously free nations shut everything down. I was around politics for 20 years as a strategist. And one thing I know about business or government is that it doesn't get smaller by itself. It feeds itself. It grows. More bureaucracy. And government doesn't make any money. Government has to take money from individuals. And when government takes money out of individuals to feed itself, its bureaucracies, its political structures, et cetera, it impoverishes the people and makes them weaker so that they have to work harder and they have less, so they can't push back. That's just what's happening.
Jeff, I'm telling you, you know, I'm gonna tell you this. I want to go with you, but my line of work.
We'll have to do a one-on-one, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm telling you, but I love this call. Yeah. You'd have to kick me off the call, and I'd sign something that says Ricky, the only owner of the Success Generation. But I'm telling you, I love where you're going with it, and I think the listeners that are listening this is a show that, you know, this is cool that we've gone just by asking about Elon Musk is how everything shifts, and you are absolutely right with Machiavelli, because, you know, I took over a unit one time. It was toxic. It was a unit that was horrible. Fired the guy. They brought me on and said, "Hey, we need you to get this unit great." And the first thing I had to do, I did my observation time. I had to expedite that observation time because I would have went down with the observation. But I had to find out that bad apple that keeps on getting everyone. Mm-hmm. And I had to eradicate those people, or they either had to understand that this is the way we're going. Mm-hmm. And if you're not going to go the way that for the change, you're gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people from the outside, they look in at a leader, and they don't understand what they have to do in order to get that the posture or the health of that organization back to where it needs to be. And sometimes it looks crazy, but like you said, history, when you're living in history, you don't understand until you're on the other side. Rick, I don't want to hog everything. You haven't been saying a lot in this. I don't know if you're writing a lot of notes. I
have a page. I have a page full of notes here.
Yeah, I can see that.
My mic keeps messing up in and out. So, but yeah.
And I'll tell you something else about when you get that toxic person and you take them out. Everybody's happy you took them out.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the Wizard of Oz. Even the flying monkeys were happy when that witch was melted down.
Yeah, right.
Right? I mean, the guards were like, my God, she was a nightmare.
Finally. Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So you got to find the wicked witch and you got to pour some water on them. And everybody else is like, oh, okay, wow, here we go. Because they're afraid to come out because that toxic person will take them out.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, getting back to the gardener thing, you know what? I have a responsibility as a leader to create an environment where people feel safe and are respected.
Mhm.
So I hunt those people.
Those weeds.
I want to find out who they are, and we'll sit down and we'll have an eyeball to eyeball, and they're gonna know that this is non-negotiable. You either we either work this out, or I'm sending
you. Ain't gonna be working. Yeah,
you
exactly.
ain't gonna be working. That is non-negotiable. Because that's managerial malpractice. If I don't have the courage to sit down and take a toxin out, I mean, I always look to work with them because I don't know how anybody was raised. Right. I don't know where it came from.
You give them an opportunity. Yeah.
That's absolutely.
One guy told me, he said, listen, Rick, I've never fired anyone. And I was like, you've had a successful business for all these years? He said, no, it comes to the point where they understand that this is not the place for them to be.
Yeah, my dad told me.
I love that. Yeah, I love it.
And that's what that's a strong leader, because they're looking. Bullies aren't courageous. And when they meet a true alpha,
yes,
they're backing that up.
Yes, sir.
Because I'll tell you, the more brash they are, the more insecure they are. That's almost a 1-to-1 right there. Yeah, and if you know that, and you can show them that you know that, and they know you know that.
Oh yeah, you have control.
And then at that point, it's like, so you want to come over to the good team?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You're welcome.
But
hey, Jeff, our audience would not love me, or they would put a lot of stuff in the comment if I didn't ask this question also. So when you had your business, you said the reason why it was failing was because you're growing. You guys were growing fast, so you didn't understand what was going on. But this aggregate operations look like what was choking your business. You had operations in different places that you didn't know how to manage those operations in different places. And I know that's one bread and butter for the military. We know how to be in 5 different places at the same time and be effective, and also have those lines of communication, what we call C2. We have those communications in order to make sure that we can when one thing is said, we can carry it out in all the different operations. So
and you guys also have a boot camp that you send everyone to
understand
in shape.
Yeah.
The non-negotiable part.
That too. But so how did those operations, for people that are trying to grow their businesses they think success is growing the business from 5 personnel to 100 and having an office in every state in the United States, but they don't understand what that really takes in order to be successful and how that could kill their business. Can you explain that to them?
Yeah, always anticipate more complexity than what you're thinking about. So what happened with us was, for instance, most of us were based out of Jersey. I had 3 partners. If I had a problem with one of my clients in North Jersey, I drove there. We worked on it. I went home, I had dinner, maybe I went back out the next day, right? We work on it. If I had a problem in Dallas, I had to get on a plane. I had to fly out there. I had to spend that money. I had to lose that day travel and a day travel back. Yep. While I'm there, it's like, well, I'm not just going to fix the problem. So I'll spend a couple of days there, not the best use of time because we didn't have Zoom and we didn't have that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I had more management problems because they didn't have a partner out there. I had a manager out there. And they were big operations. Same thing happened down in Virginia. I ended up moving up to Rhode Island to run that place. So, but yeah, when you expand, what you really want to think about is what administrative overhead have I just added?
Yeah.
What's the level of complexity that I've just added? How am I going to manage that? Okay, so you know what? I have 5 employees. Okay, I want to go to 15 employees because, man, if I'm making X amount with 5, I can make, 3 times that with 15. Well, possibly, but only if you design your organization to handle 15.
Yeah, with the scale.
Yeah.
So what does that take? That takes probably another manager or 2.
Mm-hmm.
That's overhead. That takes some HR. That takes cash flow to come in because you have to pay those people every time. Good business, bad business. So you almost have to have more business than you need for the 15. And do I have seed corn to where this thing goes south or it starts to go bad? If I'm right up against it cash flow wise, I don't have any room. Cash is king.
Yeah.
I became a cash flow expert. I created a system. In fact, I spoke with somebody, a consultant about 6 months ago, and I gave her this Excel spreadsheet that I created to help me to anticipate cash flow, unlike anything I'd ever come up with before. And she said, it's 15 years ago, something like that. She said, I'm still giving that to clients. You have to manage your cash flow because if you don't have cash, you don't have oxygen.
Yeah.
If you don't have cash, you don't have oxygen. And be careful with that. And stay on top of your receivables. And don't be afraid to put people on credit hold if you have to. You don't want to lose the client. But if you teach them that they can string you out, and these are all judgment calls. There is no rule book for it. All of them put a pit in your stomach. And that's why not everybody's, cut out to be an entrepreneur, because you could be really smart and hardworking, but it's a brutal class. It's I tell people, if you're in business, you'll be able to relate to this. If you're in business, it's like you're in the regular Navy. When you become an entrepreneur, that's Navy SEAL stuff. That's special ops. You're a different type of person to go in and like that and thrive in that and be able to handle that pressure and be able to lead people through it and build something, because you're out on the front line. You're not living in town, and it's the pioneers that get the arrows. So get used to it.
Yeah.
But self-determination.
One other thing I want to ask you, Jeff, and we're going to let you go because really appreciate your time and just sharing with us today. I mean, time has just flown by this evening. Just been so into, you had me when you started talking about the new model of leadership and the org chart. I'm sitting here, my brain's going writing all these notes. I have to show you my whole notebook here as the things that I need to look at. I went and downloaded your on your website. So if anyone actually needs to know, his website is his name, Jeffrey Deckman, jeffreydeckman.com. Go on there. He does have a free downloadable that you can download. Get some more information. I talked about his services, his M3 process, and other resources where he's been featured in podcasts and different blogs and videos that he has. So go on his website, check him out, and learn a little bit more about what he has to offer, and also where to contact him. But Jeff, before I let you go, I know we're talking about, you also got me when you started talking about just a think tank of walking into this new era of technology and how that's changing the workforce. Talk about the remote world now. We're in a totally different, you mentioned it a couple of seconds ago. It's like, hey, we didn't have Zoom or online stuff where you can get on a computer where you don't necessarily need to have offices in different locations. You can have people all over the place now working for you. Like, how have you started to coach and talk to organizations that have to adapt or that are adapting to this new mold or configuration or model, whatever you want to call it, or way of life, really, after COVID here?
One of the things that well-meaning leaders and managers do that works against them is we accept responsibility very seriously, and we think that we have to figure everything out. It's our responsibility to lead our teams. And That's true. That it's our responsibility to lead our teams, but we can't do everything. Some things you have to take point and you have to drive it forward. Other things, the worst thing you can do is get out there on your own and try to figure it out and come up with stuff. This is one of those situations where you pull the tribe together and you say, look, let's figure this out. I mean, there's a bunch of articles out there and a bunch of different people talking about a bunch of different things. And there's a lot of good stuff in there. But we are our own tribe. There's not another tribe like this anywhere else. So what works for us? And here are some of the challenges. We have accountability issues that we need to make sure we're good with. I'm not saying we're bad with them, but we need, how do we do that? What seems to be fair? We have discipline issues. We have connectivity issues. One of my clients has 75 employees, and they're probably about 60 of them are distributed all over the place. So how do you build camaraderie? How do you build community? What do you do with that? And these are real challenges. And, one of the things that keeps people engaged, a lot of managers and executives talk about, we need higher employee engagement. And they're looking for the employees to engage them. But Stephen Covey had a great line about what it takes to be understood. And he said, if you want to be understood, first seek to understand, then be understood. If you want engagement, seek to engage them first, then they will engage you. Because you have to understand that you're in this authority position, and based on all the models, you are a powerful person that can fire me, right? and we're designed for hierarchies anyway. Hierarchies are incredibly healthy. Toxic ones aren't, but good ones are. We'd be nowhere without them. So there is that. So we need to be in that position where we are conscious of how we're viewed. So you want to break those barriers down. And once you do, people start to open up, because people are brilliant. They're smart. They're creative, as long as they're engaged. And you just sit with them and say, look, how do we need to design this? And how can we hold everybody accountable? Because a healthy tribe wants the rest of the tribe to be accountable. Nothing's worse than I'm doing my work, you're doing your work, and, somebody else isn't doing theirs. So as a community, how do we create a culture around that? And, I finished up a 2-year client, and I started out working with their partners back in 2021. February, I spent 3 months helping them. They were growing organically, and they were growing like crazy. They were doing $5 million a year with 50% profit, literally.
Whoa.
Yeah. Whoa.
Wow.
So they were doing some stuff really good. But what was happening was because they were doing so well, their next level of growth, if they didn't become another type of an organization, they would have flipped. You can't get to where you want to go doing what it is you're doing. At some point, it starts working against you. And so I worked with the 3 partners, and then they turned their whole management team over to me. And I worked with a 7-person management team. And over 2 years, and I probably met with them 5 times a week in various capacities. I've been on site 3 times. And we did amazing work, to the point to where in December, we just looked and said, you know what, take the training wheels off. You don't need you just need to go do the stuff we've been talking about. You don't need, and if you need me, call me, right? That's the work I do. If I can't get you to the point where you don't need me anymore, I didn't do my job.
Yeah. I love it. Right?
That's my job.
One last question, Jeff, and this is we got to make a segment on this, Marlon. Our selfish tip. I don't know what we're going to call it, but it's a tip for us, right? In our business and in our endeavors, right? Just based off of your experience. So, how would you suggest? Marlon and I, we have a product development company in the sports space, and we released our first product earlier this month. And so far, it's going well. I mean, sales are going well. Things are going well. We're getting a lot of traction, getting a lot of places, a lot of eyes on it. And, it has a lot of great potential, which we knew when we started the journey three years ago, right? It's been a 3-year process to get the first product out there. And how would you, coming from that financial mindset and just kind of growing this business organically, what would be your tip in terms of making sure that we are structuring our finances properly? I know you said the cash flow worksheet you gave to your friend years ago. What would be a tip for a small business like ours with less than three or four partners together, really to trying to grow this thing?
I'd have to know a little bit more to give you a little more information. But
yes. I paused. I was like, man, this is a very hypothetical. A lot of things vague. You don't know.
Yeah.
Very vague, but
it's enough. It's certainly enough. Projections are crucial, and I'll tell you, I fought doing budgets and projections for, oh my God, forever. And in 2000, I ended up doing going down to New York, and I was working with a group of people to look to get about $25-50 million worth of venture capital money to, do an IPO. That's when the money was flowing in Wall Street. So I was down in Manhattan every week for a year. And one of my responsibilities was I had to build the pro forma for what this company was going to look like, starting from nothing and this money coming in and then building to a huge organization. And, it was like giving a caveman a computer. I didn't know what I was doing with it. Right? But, I can add and subtract. So I don't give up. So what that taught me was the importance of, I used to look at budgets and say, okay, you're just telling me to make stuff up. And I'm a real world guy. Like, I get out a year from now, 2 years, 3, I'm just making stuff up. That's irresponsible of me. And what I learned by going through that process is, yes, that's true. However, what you're doing is you're building a model that you know how you built it. And in the early parts, it's probably pretty accurate. And the further you go out, the less accurate it is. But it's always accurate for today. So as you move through that timeline and things happen, well, you have this model that you can go in and, let's say you lost a client, go in and change your revenue projections. Now take a look and see how that's going to, are we going to start going into the red? And go into the red a little bit. And then what do we have to do to come out of it? Yeah. And if we go into the red, do we have a line of credit that we can handle? One of the reasons we went down back in 87 was because we were tapping into our line of credit without being disciplined on knowing how we're going to pay it back. And we just got bunched up. And then we had a client that held us up on $250,000 on a really bad deal that they stuck it to us. And that's what caused us to collapse. Bad management and bad luck. So yeah, if you can start developing some pro formas, and all that is you have and you know what, offline I can email you what I have. And But basically what you're doing is you're anticipating what revenues you think will come in. You're looking at what your costs are going to be going out, and not only just in overhead stuff, but when do I have to hire someone else? And when I hire that person, or those people, like a lot of time you might hire salespeople, and you got to start paying them before it comes in. Okay, as I pay them, what is the sales cycle time? How long does it take for that to start coming back? So between the two of you can start playing around with some numbers, and with both of you looking at it, you'll probably be pretty close. Yeah. And even if you're off and something happens, either you get a big sale, you can go in and you can change them. You lose a big sale, you can go in and you can change them. But the thing is to be looking at those numbers. They're the gauges you're flying your plane by. And you're looking through the windshield, but you also want to be looking down and saying, do we have enough fuel? Do we have enough oil? How are we doing here? Man, be looking at that and just build a model. You don't have to be an MBA to do it.
Love it.
And what it is, I'm going to hire somebody and this is what I'm going to pay them. You can do the math.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then what's cool about that, when you do that, that starts generating your sales goals and metrics.
Yes.
And that's what I was already saying. It gives you a goal to kind of shoot for. All right, guys, now we got to target hitting X amount of units
and you're
sold
speaking
or
my
X amount of
language.
clients that we need to make sure we contract or engagements in order to push, kind of the goals and objectives that we have laid out for ourselves.
And if you don't get that, you see the money coming down, you know what? You want to start trimming your sales before you need to trim your sales, because you don't want to get into that deficit space if you can help it. I mean, I've been in and out of deficit many, many times. It's never fun, but
7 years for one, as you said.
What's that?
You said 7 years for what it took you to pay off that one deficit.
9, something like that. Yeah.
This stuff is not for sissies, man.
No,
hey, I'm gonna tell you, Jeff. A lot of people want to be entrepreneurs, and this show, I really want people go back, listen. I don't know, share it with a friend or enemy, whoever you want to share it with. But being an entrepreneur, and you said it exactly correct. Everybody could be. You're in the Navy, but who wants to be the Navy SEALs?
Mm-hmm.
You have to work harder. You have to take more punishment, and you have to love that punishment and understand that that punishment is going to make you better. So when you go on your mission, you're successful and everybody comes home. So
I've had the opportunity to know 2 Navy SEALs, not well, but like just enough to have a conversation with them. They're amazing human beings to me. And the one guy said, you know why they put us through all that stuff? He said, it's not so we become big and buff and et cetera. He said, they put us through that stuff because anybody who's there for their ego will tap out. They want to know who wants to be a Navy SEAL more than almost they want to live. And as an entrepreneur, who wants to be that? Because it's going to test you. And you know what? If you're one for a month, a year, 10 years, whatever, the fact that you did it and you took that risk, you get to call, you get to own that. And the longer you're in it, the better. But if you're the type that, even if you have to go back in and get another job, honor the fact that you had the character and the courage to go and do that. And because you didn't make it doesn't mean you're a failure. There are no failures. There's only lessons.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. But listen, guys, jeffdeckman.com. Please go on there and check out a lot of his things that he has to offer. Like I said, I already downloaded the free download, and we'll also get some other materials, man. Really appreciate what you're sharing here. All the advice that you have provided, all of our travelers, please, if you have any questions for him, feel free to go to his contact page directly or reach out to us. And also the information will be in the show notes as well. Listen, we've had a great time with you, Jeff. We want to thank you for coming on the show with us, and all of our travelers. We want to thank you for joining us again for another episode of the Success Journey Show. Do trust and know that we will be back next week at the same time, the same place on the Success Journey Show. Everyone have a good one. Have a good one. Peace.
You've been listening to the Success Journey Show, where your dreams, drive, determination, and diligence are the foundation to success. For more information, check out thesuccessjourneyshow.com. The Journey Squad is here helping you to your destination.